Kafka The Hunger Artist, a twisted tale of a man who takes the phrase starving artist way too literally. Our protagonist, this guy with an appetite for existential crisis, roams around Europe putting on live performances of starvation. Yep, that's right, he locks himself in a straw-lined cage and lets people gawk at him as he wastes away. Is he making a statement, craving fame, or just in desperate need of a decent meal? Who knows? But boy, does he pull a crowd. At first, he's a hit, especially with the kids. Because nothing says wholesome family entertainment like watching a guy starve. But the adults, they're not so easily fooled. They're convinced he's sneaking snacks on the sly, so what do? They bring in butchers to keep an eye on him. Yeah, butchers, because apparently being a starving artist requires the same security as a medieval meat market. Naturally, the hunger artist is pissed. He's pouring his soul into his art, or more like wasting it away, and all he gets is suspicion and a boss who treats his suffering like a circus act. His manager, the impresario, sets a 40-day fasting limit, worried his audience will lose interest if the artist just keels over. Imagine stopping a marathon just before the finish line because someone might get bored. That's the hunger artist's life in a nutshell. When the fast ends, it's a whole humiliating ritual. The crowd watches as doctors examine him like it's some bizarre science experiment. The artist, he's mortified. This was supposed to be his grand statement, but instead, it's a freak show with the artist as the main attraction. And here's the kicker. He's deeply unhappy because no one really gets him. The audience, his fans, the whole world, they all miss the point. They see a starving man, but he's really trying to say something profound. Or is he? Maybe he's just a guy who found a niche market in suffering. Over time though, the world moves on. Fasting becomes passé like a forgotten TikTok trend. Our artist, his fame fades. Desperate, he leaves his manager and joins a circus. Not as the main event. Oh no, he's not a sideshow, like that one act everyone skips at the start of a concert. He's placed at the entrance of the circus's menagerie where he's mostly ignored by the crowd who's more interested in seeing actual animals than a guy who refuses to eat. And here's where it all goes downhill. He's left alone, pushing himself to break his own fasting records, but it's all in vain. No one's watching, no one cares. His art, if you can call it that, is forgotten. He's eventually found near death in his cage, a sad, withered shell of a man. And what does he reveal in his last breath? That he fasted not for art, not for some deep philosophical reason, but because he could never find food he liked. Yup, all this drama because the guy was a picky eater. And what does the circus do after his death? Replace him with a panther. Yes, a freaking panther. A beast full of life and vigor, everything the hunger artist wasn't. The crowds go wild for the panther, leaving the hunger artist as nothing more than a forgotten footnote in circus history. So, what's the deal with Kafka's The Hunger Artist? It's a dark, twisted critique of society's obsession with spectacle over substance. Kafka's story isn't just about one man's extreme commitment to his art, or his disdain for cafeteria food. It's about the relentless pursuit of meaning in a world that often misses the point entirely. The hunger artist's tragedy isn't just that he's starving. It's that he's starving for understanding, for recognition, and ultimately, for connection. But instead of finding it, he's reduced to a sideshow freak, replaced by a panther that embodies everything he lacks. In the end, Kafka leaves us wondering, was the hunger artist a genius ahead of his time, or just a guy with some serious issues? Maybe both, but one thing's for sure, the next time you skip a meal, remember, you might be one existential crisis away from being Kafka's next protagonist.